I'm your presenter, Shabu Are You. Solo's coming out, so, oh boy. I know YouTube, the internet, has been, like, just up in arms about how terrible Star Wars has become since Kathleen Kennedy has basically run the ship aground. And I'm on the side where I'm not happy with the direction that Star Wars has been going. And I'm also one to think that the prequels weren't as bad. I mean, when you look at what we have now, the prequels actually look pretty good, you know, Jar Jar included. I know it sounds bad, but hear me out. At least, like, in the prequels, there was original ideas. And I think Lucas's problem was there was no checks. Checking his ego, so he was just running amok, and it was basically, he was a dictator. So he was the emperor, and he basically, you know, I think in the earlier ones in the 70s and 80s, Lucas was actually bouncing ideas and getting feedback from Francis Ford Coppola, you know, Martin Scorsese, and of course, Steven Spielberg. So I think in this case, he was just, you know, with the prequels, he was just running amok. But let's cut out all that stuff and see what the underlying reality is. And he did bring original, when you watched it, it felt like a Star Wars movie. It had Star Wars concepts. It introduced new things, but they all had Star Wars feel to it. And The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, there's none of that. You don't even feel like you're watching a Star Wars movie. And I don't want to sound like an old fogey and be like, you know, remember back in my time. It's not like that. Like, you know, I am more than happy. I said this. It's not meant for me. It's not meant for you. It's meant for that 12-year-old, like, you know, we were there once, and that's why all of us have fond memories of it. But what they're showing to these kids isn't even like something that's substance that's going to hold on with them for the rest of their lives to have an endearing impact on their lives like it did with us. That's not the case. It's just in, out, you know, like a lot of today's stuff. It's just like what have you done for me lately? And then flush it down the toilet to the next thing. It doesn't have any lasting impact. And the other thing is, like, with the Solo movie, I mean, I don't even know where to begin. Like, this is the first time I'm not seeing a Star Wars movie opening night. And it really bothers me. Like, you know, I love Star Wars. Star Wars transcends everybody. Whether you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, brown, yellow, green, whatever. It was the one thing that anybody could relate to, and it brought everybody together. And it was one of those, it was a wonderful, you know, story. That was the thing, it was a story. And it took you away from reality into a different world. These new movies are not doing that. It's just basically rehashing off the old ones. And look at Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai had just sprinkle a little bit of nostalgia, but keep it relevant for the modern generation, for the modern audience, and have a story keep going. Which is why season 2 was, you know, like that, because you're left with, I want to know what happens to Miguel, like the new characters, Sam, blah, blah, blah. It's not just Johnny and Daniel. It was the other people around it. It was the whole collective story. excellent job. And Disney needs to look at what those guys did, because they got it, and Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, and that piece of shit Rian Johnson. I don't even know, like, you're not talented, dude. You're not like a nerd or whatever. You suck. You are a terrible director. And J.J. Abrams, you have the same story, whether it's Star Trek or Star Wars. Big spaceship coming, blah, blah, blah. Lasers, boom, you know, bad guy, something explodes. It's the same damn, like, watch Star Trek 1 and Star Trek 2, then watch Episode 1. It's the same damn thing. You're not talented. You're not a good director. You had, like, Alias, big freaking deal. Who cares? When it comes to, like, telling a story, production, trying to get people interested, you drop the ball. I don't know how these guys are making money. I mean, they're basically stealing for being no talented bums. That's my take on it. They suck. They're terrible. I could direct a better movie. I know everybody says that, but dude, I have ideas. I'm an artist. I'll be J.J. Abrams. Sorry, I just went off on a tangent. But the point is, like, these movies, I'm not excited to see Solo at all. And I know a lot of people aren't. And the internet's been full of, like, people like me voicing their disapproval. But I'm ready to let go. Like, you know, I said that, this is not meant for me. It's meant for the kid. I don't want to take anything away from kids getting their Star Wars. People have to remember there's actually a generation that are attached to the prequels. And Celebration was up the road in Disney here. So, like, there were people that were prequel kids, like millennials, that were, like, attached to the prequels, the Anakin story. And it made me think about it. I'm like, well, to them, that was their 70s, 80s Star Wars. So it made me rethink about, I didn't hate their prequels. I thought they were, like I said in the beginning, it kept the story going. It felt Star Wars. Yeah, there were bits and pieces that were a mess. The acting was terrible. It wasn't the actor's fault. Poor Hayden Christensen, I feel bad. No wonder Natalie Portman is, like, totally distancing herself from that entity. The acting that George Lucas directed was bad. Like, you know, he should have been, like, an executive producer or something like that and let the directing be done by somebody else. And I think had he kept Star Wars, there would have been episodes 7 and 8 and 9, but I think that he knew that he shouldn't be directing it. So had he not sold it to Disney, that's probably the most likely scenario. But if you see behind me in the retro room, I mean, Star Wars is my jam, man. I mean, it was what got me into collecting retro toys. And I only own one piece, and I'll show you what it is. This is the only Disney piece that I have. Everything else is Kenner, Hasbro, before Disney acquired it. Once Disney acquired it, it pretty much was a done deal. And my vintage line, you got Obi-Wan, Boba Fett, Imperial Guard, Leia, Lando. I mean, I spent a lifetime, like a lot of us fans, collecting these things. And I didn't do it for monetary value. I mean, I'm not going to sell any of these things. This is part of my history. And Star Wars is a big piece of my history. So when Solo comes out, am I going to go see it? Yeah, I am. But I'm not going to see it right away. I'm not excited to see it. Eventually I will see it in the movie theaters. But I just want Disney to know that I don't blame Disney. I think that they have a captain that's not running a good ship. And the directors that they brought on are absolutely atrocious. And I know it's hard to continue that, but it really shouldn't be. Like, you know, they should focus on the story and the characters. I mean, Luke and Han didn't even interact. and Carrie Fisher is dead. Seeing those three on the screen one time together, that's all they had to do. And they failed. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the direction of Star Wars, the new Solo movie, and again, it's up to you. I know there's people that like it, there's people that don't, and I'm not here to take away from those that like it, but that's just my feeling, how I feel, and if you're inclined to feel the same way, hit like. If not, you know. So thank you for today's episode, and may the Force be with you.